One thing has always stood clear throughout the changing times and transitions in comedy. A great comedian can make a joke or do something that will make people laugh and smile at the same thing years later. Comedian Charlie Chaplin once said, "If what you're doing is funny, you don't have to be funny doing it." Comedy comes in all shapes and sizes and it can be found almost anywhere. Lucille Ball was a leader in comedy and left a legacy that influences modern-day comedy. Lucille Desiree Ball was born on August 6, 1911 in Jamestown, New York to Desiree Hunt, otherwise known as Dee Dee and Henry Ball. Henry died of typhoid fever when Lucy was 3. Lucy's brother Freddie was born shortly after. As children, Lucy and Freddie would put on performances based on the productions they watched at a local amusement park. In high school, Lucy directed and acted in a successful production of Charlie's Aunt. Dee Dee noticed the itch. Lucy had to do something in the acting business, and she supported Lucy's ambitions. Dee Dee borrowed money from the bank so she could afford to send Lucy to John Murray Anderson Robert Milton Theater School in New York City. While there, Lucille's teacher, Robert Milton, who was also one of the headmasters, told her that her talent was minimal, and Lucy told her mother that she was wasting her money. However, she stayed in New York determined to make something of herself and tried to become a showgirl, but she was too shy and did not stay long after being hired. Lucy found a few jobs modeling for various companies for a few years. Lucy was 22 when she moved to Hollywood and played a Goldwyn girl in the 1933 movie Roman Scandal, after meeting agent Sylvia Hallow in front of the Palace Theater. She continued to act in many other movies and became known as Queen of the Bees. The Bees were the low-budget movies. She shed her shyness and later admitted, "I was shy for several years in my early days in Hollywood, until I figured out that no one really cared if I was shy or not, and I got over my shyness." In 1939, she was promoting a movie called Five Came Back in New York. Lucy, who was working for Radio Keith Orpheum at the time, was told to see the Broadway hit Too Many Girls, which they had bought to make an adapted film version. RKO wanted her to see it because they were hinting that she was to be cast in it. She was at the ice skating rink in Rockefeller Plaza, and while promoting the movie, she slipped. She had to go to the hospital, and her friends who were visiting her raved about the young Cuban singer in Too Many Girls. His name was Desi Arnaz. Once she was well, she went to see the musical and found herself raving about the Cuban band leader too. While on the set of Too Many Girls, Lucy and Desi finally met. Lucy said, "I fell in love with Desi, wham bang, in 5 minutes." On November 30th, 1940, Lucille Desiree Ball and Desirito Alberto Arnaz y Diacha III were married in Greenwich, Connecticut. Lucy signed with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer in August of 1942. As soon as she was signed, they changed her look to the iconic redhead she is remembered as. In 1948, the radio business was booming. Lucy was playing on the radio show My Favorite Husband. Through her character on the show, she ended up playing a comedic actress for the first time and created the genre of the screwball wife who was always doing strange things and causing trouble for her husband and herself. Creating that as an image for what the role should be resulted in a very popular series on the radio. In 1950, the couple declared that no one had faith in them while working together, and thus Desi Productions was created. CBS wanted to make My Favorite Husband into a television show. Lucy was on board with the idea and she wanted Desi to play the husband. CBS didn't want him to because
it just wasn't believable that she would be married to a Cuban who didn't speak English well. It's kind of ironic that she was in fact married to a Cuban.
Pilot episodes of the show without Desi as the husband were not successful. Lucy demanded that they be a package deal. Then she said they would go on a tour and see if the audiences liked them. Of course the audiences loved them and they were an immediate hit. The name of the show was changed to I Love Lucy, and the characters too. And the plotline of I Love Lucy was that Lucy and Ricky lived next door to Fred and Ethel Mertz, who were played by William Frawley and Vivian Vance. The four were best friends and had many unpredictable zany adventures. Ricky was a band leader. The Mertzes are landlords to the Ricardos, and Lucy is a housewife. The show was a hit and held #1 for a long time, and there are still many reruns on today. Lucy and Desi had a daughter named Lucy on July 17, 1951, which was shortly before I Love Lucy premiered on television. Their son, Desi Arnaz Jr., was born on the same day as the Ricardos' son, Little Ricky, on January 19, 1953. 44 million people tuned in for the birth of Little Ricky, compared to the 29 million that viewed President Eisenhower's inauguration the next day. Desi Arnaz Jr. was put on the first TV guide for the week of April 3rd that year. TV censorship at the time made it difficult for Lucy to announce to Ricky that she was pregnant. The writers Madeline Pugh Davis and Bob Carroll Jr.
We couldn't say pregnant.
Yeah, we had to
Couldn't say the word. No. Yeah.
Anticipate.
Heavy with child.
When the show ended after its 6th season, they had many memorable episodes to look back at. There's one where Lucy and Ethel go to work in a chocolate factory but cannot keep up with the speed.
You're doing splendidly. Speed up!
Another was when Lucy did a commercial for a health elixir called Vitamina Vegemin, which contained alcohol, and she did so many takes of the commercial, she ended up getting drunk. There were so many episodes considered classic, it is impossible to list them all. The couple went on to make the Lucy Desi Comedy Hour, which was a spin-off of I Love Lucy. It also featured the Mertzes. It was another hit. During the Cold War with the Soviets, information was dug up about who in the country was registered as a communist. It was discovered that Lucy had signed papers confirming she was one. She claimed it was because her grandfather was one and she wanted to follow him and make him happy. The FBI got involved and investigated the case. During the crisis, Desi stepped out on stage before the filming of one of their shows and said that Lucy was not interested in politics, declaring the only thing right about Lucy is her hair, and even that's not legitimate. Their marriage was not a good one from the start, and I Love Lucy was the last attempt at trying to fix the marriage. Both had a big ego and a great deal of pride. He had a Latin temper and she was fiery. After the couple went through an amicable divorce, staying friends, Lucy starred in another show called The Lucy Show. It was about a widowed Lucy Carmichael who goes on adventures with her best friend, Vivian Bagley, who is played by Vivian Vance. The producer of the show was Desi Arnaz. 2 years after the divorce, Lucy remarried to Gary Morton. Lucy bought Desi out of Desi Lou and made herself the first woman to head her own production company. Desi still produced and directed shows at the company, such as The Ann Southern Show. The company produced many other well-known shows too, such as The Dick Van Dyke Show, The Andy Griffith Show, Star Trek, and Mission Impossible. Lucille also starred in a Broadway musical called Wildcat as Wildcat Jackson, which had 171 performances. She was also still involved in television, starring in Here's Lucy with her children Lucy Arnaz and Desi Arnaz Jr. It was about a widow Lucy Carter, who worked for her uptight brother-in-law Harrison Carter, played by Gail Gordon. Her last show was Life with Lucy, and it ended shortly after it began. It did not get the expected ratings. Desi had remarried to Edith Arnaz and resided in Del Mar, California. He died on December 2, 1986, after losing his battle with lung cancer. Lucy stayed by her father's side until his death. She once recalled that on November 30, 1986, when Lucille had called Desi, it was, I love you, Desi, I love you. You could even hear the annotations of the voice change, how she meant each one. And I just sat there trying not to show him that I was listening, because I had to hold the phone. And he said, I love you too, honey, good luck with your show. My mother was the last person he talked to because he died 48 hours later.
Lucille Ball died this morning in the Los Angeles hospital. Her doctors say she unexpectedly suffered full cardiac arrest 8 days after undergoing open heart surgery.
Almost no one could believe it because less than a month before she was out in public with her husband at the Academy Awards. Everything and everyone stopped to announce her death. Television shows, radio shows. She was the headlines of newspapers. The New York Post put out posters at each and every newspaper stand around the city, and even entertainment shows dedicated entire episodes to her. Lucy was an influential woman who changed television history forever. Her sitcoms over the years are considered classic golden age television. Lucy considered herself a physical comedian, historians consider her a slapstick comedian, and the world considers her the queen of comedy. Though Ball claimed, I am not funny, what I am is brave. Another example of Lucille's character is from Michael Stern, who had worked as Lucy's personal assistant for a while, noticed that Lucy could get excited as a kid, especially when he was in London and the Queen told him to say hello to Lucy for her. Lucy was very happy that the Queen of England knew who she was. Other people who she worked with said she could get bossy but was always right, and they would admire her or would be scared of her. She would always be there for the people in her life. Her friends would always describe her as kind and caring, especially with her children. Lucille won many awards and nominations during and after her life. Such awards included the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1989, and she had a long-standing record for a number of Emmy nominations as a comedic actress, which was recently broken by Julia Louis-Dreyfus in 2013. Her legacy has inspired many women over the years. Historian Stephen Camphor said Carol Burnett was effusive in praise of Lucy. After Julia Louis-Dreyfus broke Lucille's record, she said in an interview that Lucille Ball without a doubt influenced her. Actress and comedian Mila Kunis said in an interview Lucille Ball is perfection, and indicated that Lucy was one of her favorite comedians. She has influenced even people who have not mentioned her as much of an influence. Ellen DeGeneres and Oprah Winfrey are heads of their own production companies. Tina Fey and Amy Poehler are both producers and continued their careers throughout their pregnancies. Lucy had a few bumps in the road like any other actress. Historian Nina Leibman once wrote, for all her impact upon the very nature of television production, Ball is most vividly recalled as a series of black and white images. To remember Lucille Ball is to recall a profusion of universal images, magical mayhem, a losing battle with a candy conveyor belt, a flaming nose, a slippery vat of grapes. Images which, contrary to most American situation comedy, transcend nationalities and generations, in an absolute paradigm of side-splitting laughter.